Well, welcome. It's Thursday, and this is week 3 of the 6 weeks of Make It Okay series. And we're joined today by 4 panelists for the topic, Make It Okay at Work. A few housekeeping things before we dive in. If you can just make sure your microphone is muted if you're not one of the panelists. You're welcome to have your camera on or off, as mentioned a little earlier. And please, we encourage you to use the chat to share things as you go, and you can ask questions as you go, but we will have time later in the presentation to ask questions of the panelists. So what is Make It Okay? Make It Okay is an anti-stigma campaign that was created to encourage individuals to talk more openly about mental illness. And by breaking the silence, the idea is we can help friends, neighbors, loved ones, team members, coworkers feel understood and supported. It was initially brought to Iowa via Minnesota by Iowa Healthiest State Initiative. And with Make It Okay, there are various opportunities to learn, talk, and share. That's sort of the motto. So to engage more with them, I encourage you to visit the website, makeitokay.org/Iowa, and you can learn more, take the pledge, become an ambassador, register your workplace, and more. So there's kind of a lot to do on the site, and most of you may be familiar with that, but if not, check it out. So just a quick hit on some of the sponsors of Make It Okay that make the program possible. Events like this, you can see their logos. We're really grateful. Healthcare organizations, the county, United Way, Delta Dental, Mid-Iowa Health, and Capital Crossroads. And of course, Healthiest State Initiative, which really steers the ship of Make It Okay. These are the community partners. You'll notice some of the same. I also want to acknowledge the Greater Des Moines Partnership for helping us host this event, and being Meg Schneider of the partnership came to me with this idea, and it mobilized really quick. And then Business Publications Corporation, with their Lifting a Veil series, they've been having community conversations much like these around mental health, and have been a great supporter of Make It Okay. I'm Emily, I'm with Capital Crossroads, and I'm today's moderator. That's not why you're here. You're here for our panelists. So I'm going to really let you guys all introduce yourself and kind of just dive right into the topic as we go. But really tell us first a little bit about you and what life looks like for you lately. And we'll just start with Ray, because you're on the left-hand side of my slide, and sure, go into the conversation. Thanks.
Sure. Hi, Ray Shanahan. I'm Chief Strategy Officer at Businesssolver. Have been with Businesssolver around 20 years, and have had the good fortune of working there from when we had around 12 employees to now we have about 1,200. And what's life been like? I was just telling the fellow panelists before we were starting that on Friday the 13th, never think about Friday the 13th again, we had around 165 remote employees. And then overnight, basically by Monday the 16th, we had 1,200 remote employees. And overnight, we had a service center that was remote, and had employees that were on Teams all the time. And and as an organization, we've always been very communicative, but we used really the COVID opportunity to start having really a Monday meeting across the whole organization where we'd share things. We call it What's Going On. And John, the CEO, and I would invite other people to be a part of it, but across the whole company, because we felt it was really important for the connection. And Emily, do you want me to dig into a little bit more about thoughts on mental health, or should we just stop with introductions there?
Yeah, let's just do introductions, but tell us a little bit about you, Ray, too. Like, are you an Iowan? What do you like doing in your spare time? I want the nitty gritty a little too, and this is for all of you.
Yeah, no, I'm a born and bred Iowan. I grew up in Newton, and in my spare time I work, and in my work time I work. No, I'm really dedicated to the people at Businesssolver. Spend a lot of time cultivating those relationships. Feel culture is extremely important, and which is why I became very public about my mental health challenges almost 3 years ago, and because I feel it's important that people can see that. I think I've been semi-successful. Can see a person that admits to having a mental health challenge, and openly talking about it can still be seen as as successful and accomplished in an organization. So I'm extremely passionate about this topic.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. And we'll come back to mental health, because that is why we're here, to dive into that and more about what Businesssolver has done. But Ty, what about you? Tell us about you. What has life been like for you lately?
Hey, so my name is Ty, and I am a refugee from Vietnam. Been in Iowa for a little bit over 30 years now. And I went to stinking Lincoln, and about 10 years back, I started doing IT, and I share a company with my partner, Igor Dobrosavljevic. He's a Serbian refugee, and we've been doing this for a few years now. Things I like to do in my spare time. I'm really into photography. I make short films, really into scooters. So if anybody in the audience wants to talk about old vintage Vespas, hit me up after this. If you want to talk about filmmaking, hit me up after this. I would love to chat about it. We're actually participating in a competition this weekend, the 48-hour film project, where you have 48 hours to make a short film. And pretty excited for that. And it's been really interesting trying to create a safe set, during this whole pandemic, and making sure that we're as safe as possible while still being able to make a movie. As far as life so far, it's wild. 2020 is wild. For us, it's been interesting, to say the least. And for me as an extrovert, it's actually been pretty tough, not being able to go to parties or events, or, there's this art thing that used to happen called Yellow Door Gallery. And I used to really enjoy going there, and it's not happening, and it's tough. It's tough. Yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Thanks. Keisha, tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, my name is Keisha Ward. Ty, I am right with you for the with being extroverted. My husband has been checking on me like crazy this entire time, because we're opposites and he's the introvert. So he's been checking on me. All right. Yeah. So my name is Keisha. I have been in Iowa for just over 14 years. I'm originally from the Chicago suburbs, Harvey to be exact. South suburbs. Came here for college, attended Iowa State. Sometimes I like to also mention that I was once a college dropout, was out for several years before going back. I was on a hiatus, we'll say that. And I worked at Iowa State for about 8 years, got my MBA while there. And I've actually been at Drake since January of 2019. And so there at Drake, I'm the assistant director of alumni relations. So I oversee all of Central Iowa programming for alumni. But in addition to that, I do own 2 businesses. So I am extremely busy. My first baby, Ward Creative Studios, I am a photographer. My studio is based here in West Des Moines in Valley Junction. And during COVID, I started business number 2, which is Vegan Knees. I'm a consultant and coach in helping folks to transition to a plant-based diet. So it's basically around just promoting the plant-based diet, the community, a brand. And so in addition to that, I came into the e-commerce world this week with the launch of apparel through Vegan Knees. And so what it has kind of looked like for me, I really want to say the way that I interact with my clients has changed. I did close Ward Creative Studios for 3 months at the start of the pandemic, and just finding those ways in navigating through what it looks like, right? So wearing the masks, and when you're typically telling your clients to do something, in particular with their face, and they can't see your face in order to do that, and things like that, and just being more virtual with them versus in person for consultation. So that, and I think in general at Drake, just a lot of extra over communication because a lot of us are still working from home. I'm going in once a week. That's what my team is doing. So there are a lot more department meetings that are happening, just utilizing Microsoft Teams a lot more this time around. But yeah, that's me.
Nice, thanks. And Annie, what about you?
Hi, I'm Annie Brandt, and is my internet working okay, Emily?
You're good.
Okay, awesome, very good. So I'm a Des Moines native, born and raised, and I could not wait to leave Des Moines when I was in high school. I went to Roosevelt, so I was a Rough Rider, spent a lot of time over at the Lincoln Rail Splitters football field when we used to play our football games there. But I couldn't wait to leave Des Moines and went to Seattle my freshman year of college and couldn't wait to come back. I was like, wait, Des Moines is actually where it's at. It's a very great place. Graduated from Iowa State, and I am now the market executive for Bank of America. I've been there for the past 2 years. I am a wife to my perfect counterpart in his name's Matt, and then I am a mom to 2 very strong-willed young girls. I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they give me a run for my money every day. And we've gotten to know each other a lot better through the pandemic. Spend a lot more time together. As a working mother, they were off to school and daycare pre-pandemic, all day, every day. And then for the past 6 months, we have spent a lot of time together. So that's one of the things that has changed the most, is that especially in March and April, life seemed to slow down quite a bit, not professionally, but personally, which was nice to kind of reset and rebalance and figure out what that was going to look like. And we've found our stride. And I would say professionally through this time, I have felt incredibly supported. The juggling of all of the personal things from return to learn, and I have moved my home office 4 times now. It's currently in my bedroom. I don't know that it's the best setup, but figuring all of that out has been has been the biggest challenge. Just that work-life balance doesn't really exist, and the lines are completely blurred between home life and work life, but we're figuring it out. And I'm glad to be here with the other panelists today. And Emily, thanks for having us.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that because it's something that I think, Ray, you all touched on. But Ray, so how has that work-life balance, the mental health component, the holistic wellness that that many of us strive for, how has that changed or been affected for you personally, for your company? What has Businesssolver done in these last months to address that?
Yeah, a couple of things come to mind, and one of the I agree with the slowing down a little bit. We've really focused with employees to help them understand and appreciate that this has really been kind of a grieving process. If you think about the Kubler-Ross process, we've talked a lot about that with employees, that we're grieving that we may never have the normal that we had before. And what people have done is they've put things off, they've held off, they've waited. And I'm a big fan of an author and speaker, Patrick Lencioni, and he has a podcast out there, and a couple of his podcasts, one has been Plant Your Tree, and so he said plant your friggin' tree. And really, we spent time with employees talking about that. And some actually raised their hand and said they actually literally planted some trees. They had been waiting, but it's really a matter of saying, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to look back anymore. I'm going to plant my flag, plant my tree, and move forward. And then a second podcast that he had was Burn Your Ships. And this goes way back to, back in the 1400s when I won't tell the story about the Spanish conquistador, but he, basically burned the ships so that they couldn't go back to their native land. And, that's another thing that we've impressed upon employees is that, hey, we're not going back there. Let's end that. Let's accept it. And let's only look forward. And, that's probably been where a lot of my time has been spent too, is listening to lots of podcasts, you know, really focused on thinking ahead, looking ahead, and appreciating the things that may come out of this. And then as an organization, I don't know, Emily, if you want to pull up, is this a good time to pull up the resources that we created?
Sure.
Cool. So with March being Mental Health Month, or May being Mental Health Month, it also coincided a lot with, here we're a couple months into this whole COVID thing, and we made a very concerted effort to focus on mental health across the organization. And so what we did is we made, and these are some public resources, and we'll provide the link. But we started at the top. I shared my whole story about, my battle with depression and almost embarrassment that I needed help, and that I struggled with years for thinking about, is this normal? Why do I feel so bad? Why am I just dragging all the time? And decided that, I wanted to share the message with people so they'd understand that, get rid of the stigma, and get rid of being embarrassed about accepting help. And I'm really glad that I've been able to share that. And that also helped other people in the organization come forward and tell their story. And so we put together all the resources that we did, all the way from all kinds of activities that we did across the organization you'll see the Mental Health Awareness Month sample event calendar. And then we also did different curriculum for people to participate in and engage in. So hopefully this will be a good resource. It's, it's not a marketing site or anything like that. We just truly wanted to share with others some things that we did to really make this front and center with our employees.
I love that. Thanks for sharing. And I just put that in the chat, and we'll send it out via email as well. And I want to hear from a small business perspective too, and entrepreneur side, what you guys did. But Annie, given that Bank of America is also a larger company, what was that sort of like? What did you see from your employer during this time, and what are you still seeing?
Yeah, so I have been incredibly impressed with our response and our nimbleness in changing what's needed and responding to requests and needs of our teammates. So we've always had, not always, but since I've been there for the past several years, we've had programs in place like Employee Assistance Program, offering face-to-face free counseling sessions, which I know many other employers have things like that. And we've had backup care programs, partner with Bright Horizons, and offer things like each employee gets 40 days of backup care that's facilitated in finding someone when there's spring break or Christmas break, or your daycare is out, or your care provider is sick. And then we also have an employee relief fund, which many of our employees took advantage of through the derecho. But some of the things that were added right away were our employee assistance program. So our counseling, that's now offered to anybody in the household, and it's unlimited face-to-face sessions, and really encouraging people to take advantage of that. Our backup care situation is that any teammate making less than $200,000 gets reimbursed up to $100 per day for any backup care needs that they have. And there's no barrier. So you can have your mom, your sister, your friend, your neighbor, whomever, watch your children when needed. And then you get reimbursed, no questions asked, up to $100 per day. And then they just announced at the beginning of August that that's going to be unlimited through the rest of the year, which is huge, especially for those teammates that are working in our financial centers and they have to show up to work to be paid for work, and their kids might be learning virtually, or they might be as a part of a hybrid model. So just trying to remove as many of those barriers as possible. And then also not just offering these things, but from the top of the house all the way down, making sure that we are talking with our teammates about what's out there, how we can support them, take advantage, but then take care of themselves too. Take vacation. What does your work schedule need to be for you, and without the fear of, am I going to get fired? Am I going to lose my job? But just really making sure that we are having that conversation. And Ray, you talked about lifting the stigma of mental health in the workplace. And on my very first day at Bank of America 2 years ago, my first day was in Philadelphia. It was part of a market president meeting. We used to have, pre-COVID, 2 market president meetings per year where they bring the senior leadership teams from around the country and our executive leadership team together. So there's about 300 of us for 3 days of meetings. And the first day was dedicated completely to mental health in the workplace. And I was like, okay, I didn't know if I wanted to work for a big corporation like Bank of America, but I have found my place. Like, if this is what we're going to talk about for 8 hours, this is where I need to be. And from the stage, our CEO said, it is our responsibility as one of the largest global corporations to be on the front of lifting the stigma of mental health in the workplace. We need to not only offer employee assistance programs and counseling and those types of things, but we need to take advantage of it ourselves. We need to talk about it. We need to encourage our teammates to take advantage of these things. So one of the things I'm most proud of is that we not only talk the talk, but we really do walk the walk and try to take care of our teammates. And that has increased during COVID. I feel like I was just kind of on my soapbox a little bit about Bank of America, but I am really proud of that.
No, that's something that is seems pretty meaningful. I mean, the depth and breadth of what they're offering to different levels of employees, but then also to everyone is really, really important. So Ty and Keisha, well, Ty, you work for a smaller company, so you have a staff of 10 or so, right?
Right. Yeah.
What have you shifted or offered during this time as it relates to mental health, or what have you worked towards?
Honestly, nothing's really changed for us because when we started the company, we put kind of mental health at the forefront of our core company values. Mostly because within IT, you can end up working a lot longer hours. You can get really stressed in your job. And we wanted to make sure that, everybody was taken care of and everybody was taking care of themselves. I kind of liken it to like being on an airplane, and when the oxygen mask drop down, you don't try to put the mask on anybody else first. You're supposed to put it on yourself first. You're supposed to take care of yourself first. And then if you can help somebody else, you help them out. So for us, honestly, nothing has really changed. I still have an open door policy. I still recommend that, if anybody needs to talk about anything, they can talk to me, they can talk to a coworker. And I also ask everybody that I work with to, check in with all their coworkers. Make sure that you're not only taking care of yourself, that you're taking care of others, that, there aren't any issues that we're just letting fester or anything like that. And I found that that's been pretty good for us. As far as like the meetings and everything goes, we talk on the phone, we chat, we just stay connected. And I think just a light touch every day, just to say like, hey, how you doing today? How you feeling today? Has been super helpful for all of us. I know it's been really tough for me as an extrovert working from home. And so when we had to have somebody come to the office to get the mail, I would be the first one to volunteer. And so I've been working out of the office by myself for months and months now. But I just need that change of pace. I can't really work from home. Because that separation of the work-life balance as a business owner is hard enough already. And then in the situation where I have to be in the same space, it's been really, really, really hard. But we're also offering that for the other employees. If somebody needs to work out of the office to kind of get a change of pace, I'll stay home that day and they can come in and they can have that whole building to themselves. So we're just trying to be as conscious as possible of making sure people are taking care of themselves.
Nice. It's interesting to hear you say that you've kind of built it into your core values and culture of mental health. That's not something I don't think I've heard before.
Yeah. And honestly, like for a long time, we've had a very, very liberal PTO policy and sick leave. So, we say one of the first things is if you need a mental health day, take it, no questions asked. We're not going to knock it against you. If you need to take a couple of days off just because you have a cough, take it off. But mental health is up there,
Nice. So Keisha, from the Drake perspective, or as an entrepreneur, however you want to answer the question, I suppose, but what about with you?
So I think I want to come more from both the personal as an individual, as both a personal and more of a community, I think, standpoint when it comes to mental health. I know, as I mentioned earlier, that everything is being done at home, right? So it's almost like there's no true line between our work and our home life, right? Because it's all in one. And for me, I know that working in the same space that I live, which would be great if I had the option to go outside of the home when I wanted to, right? You still have that option. I think, also, as I mentioned earlier, with my husband having to check in on me more when it comes to that too, because of you can easily get so wrapped up into missing out on that me time, that personal time, because you're working in your home life.
Yeah, that alone time, the like
yes.
true, yes.
And, we know partners and married folks, we get tired of each other. Come on. So,
no, no, we don't.
I plead the fifth. No.
So, but then as I think about, my clients and even thinking of the students at Drake that I serve, I think there's a lot of flexibility and grace are the two words that I've been using a lot, right? So not even just the flexibility and grace that I have for my students, but even asking them to have the same for me, right? And in understanding their situations are all different right now. They're all dealing with so many different things. And then when I think of, not as just an entrepreneur, but as a Black entrepreneur, understanding what my community looks like, in dealing with racism and systemic health and social injustices and that have really plagued the Black community for hundreds of years. And those are things that I take into consideration when I'm serving my clients as well during this time, because we don't just have COVID. We have everything else that has been at the forefront forever, right? So COVID is just another thing to kind of throw on our plates. And so when thinking of, healthcare, the criminal justice system, housing, finance, education, inaccessibility, discrimination, all of it that we're constantly dealing with, and knowing, for instance, that Black men are diagnosed with schizophrenia at a much higher rate, right? But at a much lower rate for PTSD, right? So those are, as I'm working with clients, as I'm thinking about my own marketing strategies and how I'm serving my community, I've also been doing giveaways through Word Creative Studios for sessions, having, folks in the community nominate their friends, family, neighbors, colleagues to win these giveaways and kind of write about, this nominee's experiences during right now these difficult times, and knowing that we have these extra issues that we're just constantly dealing with. That's one way that, I could think of in giving back to my community through my business, is providing these opportunities, these photography sessions, family sessions, engagement sessions for families here. And it's in realizing that, the stigma around mental health in the Black community, and knowing that it's significantly made up of white people, right? And so then we run into the issue of being able to connect with those that get it, right? That's the mind frame of, going in with anything, right? So when you go in and we're told to talk about our feelings and things like that, we, for the most part, want to do that with people that look like us because of the understanding behind it more of, than anything. And so I think it's exhaustion right now for a lot of us. And it's making sure that our colleagues, our supervisors, administrators, whoever that may be, in recognizing that we are exhausted. We have been taking the time to learn, do the research in teaching, and the expectation that we have of others around us to do that very same thing, because all of those play a huge role in our mental health. And so to constantly see our bodies, our Black bodies in the streets, every week being brutalized. And so it's doing the best I can, through my work in my business, through the work in connecting with alumni and students at Drake, and knowing that I'm here, I'm being flexible. I want to give you that grace.
Yeah, and something you said made me pause to think. So, you said you want to have conversations that about mental health with people that look like you, right? And so that had me also think, I want to have conversations about mental health and what I'm going through with people that think like me too, right? That you can relate to. Mm-hmm. And that can be hard sometimes at work. It can be hard to feel like you're super connected to your colleagues. I love I work alone, but I also have colleagues in other organizations that I partner with, like at the partnership, right? I have regular meetings with them. Mm-hmm. Are those the people you want to talk about your mental health with?
Right.
Maybe not always, but that's who we're interacting with the most frequently in these times. And our partners, spouses, friends, of course, but maybe they're not always the most the people that are the most available or who we're seeing. So I guess I have a question about that. And Ray, we'll start with you because you're overseeing a lot of people. So I guess, how do you ensure that, your own employees are, feeling that sense of community? Resources exist, like Annie was saying. You, Ray, created this great portal. But in the digital environment, how do you ensure that? Do you use different communication methods now that you're remote? What has that sort of shifted to?
Yeah, a couple things that I'll go to. Number one, we have a great group of people that have focused on keeping employees engaged, and we have data to show that our engagement numbers for our employees and the way they feel connected to the business has actually gone up during COVID. And we already had a pretty good culture before, and a great set of employees. And we think a lot of that is because we've been very intentional about our communications. We have created our wellness instructor, Tracy, does online fitness classes multiple times a day and engaging people throughout the country to participate. We have something that we
can we take those?
Sure. You can come join our Facebook
free fitness class. Sign me up.
Yeah. And Tracy's a hoop. She dresses up, but it's a way to keep that spirit of connectivity. And then we have something that we called Empathy Explorers Clubs. We focused on how can we support the teenagers and the youth for, employees, back to, I think, Annie talking about how difficult it is to have small children at home and work. And then we have activities every week that employees are able to participate in, and we have and each week we celebrate those things. So it's just really a matter of meeting people where they can be met. So that's one thing that we've done. And then
nice.
a second thing I just want to bring up, because back to talking to people about mental health, one of the pillars that I'm very, very passionate about is teaching people how to have conversations with people that have mental health issues. Oftentimes it's awkward. So if I bring up that I'm struggling, people don't know what to say. And then they try to belittle it or say, oh, it can't be that bad. Or I know somebody else that's depressed. And so really focused on how do we help people have the conversation, back to the theme, make it okay. and resources around the right things to say and the wrong things to say is something that I'm just very, very passionate about.
Yeah, that's an ongoing discussion of many of these campaigns. And I think one where Make It Okay started is in the presentation, and Jamie, who's with Iowa Healthiest State, would know this better than I do, but the first thing people want to say is like, "Oh, I'm sorry," or they're afraid of it. Like it's this,
you don't look depressed.
You'll catch. Yeah. Like, so I think to normalize that is really important. And so kudos to you for having such a depth and breadth too of offerings. It sounds like there's like something for everyone.
Try to.
Oh yeah, and here, Jamie just sent, thanks Jamie.
Yes.
In the chat, she shared a starting point for what to say and what not to say conversation tips, because it's an important conversation.
Yeah, arming coworkers to be aware, and how do they, how can they have a supportive dialogue?
Yeah. So have you done that through just videos, resources?
Yeah, and just when we have a stand up across the company every day, and we use that stand up as not only for the employees to talk about what's going on, but something that this is kind of corny, but years ago we started a thing called Blue Sparkle. And at our stand-ups, we have everybody start their day with talking about something positive that happened in their personal life or their professional life. And I can't tell you, the first few weeks that I was doing this, leaders were like, people don't want to talk about positive things. They don't want to share the positive things. And I'm like, we're sticking with it. And, now what we're going on about 8 years later of talking about Blue Sparkles, we start every day our meetings with talking, going around the room and talking about a blue sparkle. And it's fun to see people, how they engage in the positivity. And, that's one of the means of how we drive communication and drive that positive experience.
Nice.
Is it okay if I jump in really quick, Emily?
Yeah, please. I was going to have you go.
Well, I just wanted to tag on what Ray said about the Blue Sparkle. One of the things that I feel like COVID has presented the opportunity for all of us, regardless of the industry that you're in or the size of your company, is the connectivity with your teammates and your colleagues and the people you work with. So starting something like Blue Sparkle, people are like, oh, work, personal, positivity. Like, I don't know if I should bring those together. But now we're kind of forced to bring our personal life and our professional life together. I mean, I was 1,000% certain my 6-year-old was going to walk in here while I was talking earlier. And she's popped in on every video conference call I've had. I tell the story, I was presenting to some executives in Boston, and we had a nanny this summer. And I was like, the only thing I need you to do is just keep the girls downstairs while I'm on this call. I don't care about any other calls, but on this call, I need the girls to stay downstairs. And sure enough, 5 minutes in, and these like 6 white guys that are exactly what you would think of when you think of a bank executive, I hear a little knock on the door. Mama, where my Elsa hair? Where my Elsa hair? And eventually one of the guys was like, if you need to go find the Elsa hair, that's okay. Like, go get the Elsa hair. And I just feel like we have been presented this opportunity to be more authentic and genuine at work. And also, Ray, I love hearing about some of the innovation that you have going on at Businesssolver to bring your teammates together and to offer those opportunities. One of the things that we have started with my team is a book club. And we started it in February, so pre-COVID. My team, I call it my little team, but it's 42 people. And of the 42 people, I had 8 people that were like, yeah, I think I'll try a book club. It sounds kind of cheesy, but like, what do you really mean by a book club? But I'll try it. And the first book we did was Brené Brown, Dare to Lead. It's a lot about shame and vulnerability. And the 8 of us became so close because we brought our authentic selves to work. And then 2 other people wanted to lead book clubs. So then now we're doing White Fragility. And we actually have 3 different book clubs that are doing White Fragility. And it is very timely, but also it's scary, and people are being vulnerable, and it's uncomfortable, and we're talking about real things that we can apply to our professional life and our personal life. And I think that if we weren't in this pandemic setting, people wouldn't want to do book clubs or have some of those opportunities. But anyways, I'm going off on a tangent now. I love the blue.
Oh, but they're learning and growing and challenging themselves throughout this process, which I think I've seen throughout, workplaces and just people in my life doing that, right? It's like the joke was like, oh, great, now I have to learn a new hobby because we're stuck at home. But I think people are furthering that.
Of mental health is that vulnerability and being able to be authentic. And we spend so much of our time at work, we should be able to bring our whole selves to work.
Right. Yeah. Just to interject real quick, like I always say that work is 50% of your life. And if you try to keep it completely separate, then it becomes so tough. Try to compartmentalize and it never really works out. And, if you just have the empathy, if you just allow it to kind of flow into each other a little bit in certain ways, I think it's a lot better for your mental health. You don't carry so much stress with you. I think that's a silver lining of this whole pandemic is that, people are here to share in each other's joys, because in this kind of like world of uncertainty right now with everything that's going on, everybody's just kind of hoping for some sort of like happiness, some sort of joy. And when you share that joy from your day to everybody else, everybody's more receptive now. Everybody's more willing to share their own joys too. And I think everybody's growing closer as a result. So I just jumped in there, but like, I just felt like that needs to be said.
No, I want to go, that kind of ties into something that I think Keisha was saying too, of like the altruism factor, right? And like giving of yourself unto others and what that looks like. And Keisha, you're doing that, it sounds like, with your small business, Ray's doing it within Businesssolver and giving of resources. Bank of America, same thing. Ty, your company, it's built into the culture. So I guess Keisha, we'll start with you, but how do you cope? How do you ensure you're tending to your own mental health? Are there routines or activities, or like Ty just identified a kind of great silver lining of all this, but we'll start there.
I'll say that one thing that I like to tell people, and I do use this in my personal life, personal business, all of it. But I tell people to, when you're kind of in the moment of maybe being overwhelmed, you're dealing with a lot, tons on your plate, what is it that you have control over, right? Because I feel like a lot of times, all of that we're dealing with, how our mindset kind of shifts, how we handle it, has a lot to do with the things that are completely out of our control. Right. And so that's one of those things that first I'd like to sit in the moment and make sure, all right, Keisha, what is it that you can do? What is it that you have complete control over? And I'll say too, kind of some of those things that have helped me. During the pandemic, I was furloughed from Drake for a couple of weeks. Much of the institution it's been consistent across institutions. During that time was an opportunity for me to grow in my business. So as most folks would kind of take that as, darn, I'm not getting paid, right? Not getting paid, now I have to deal with these other stress factors. I took it as, all right, let's get some items checked off of my to-do list, kind of getting that sense of purpose and accomplishment through my businesses. And just kind of, I was starting to find new ways to capitalize on not just revenue, but also how I was serving my clients. It literally forced me to kind of go back to the drawing board. And for me, it was something I was excited about, because I went, if the business is going to grow, even in a pandemic, this is the time to do it. While I'm not working at Drake right now, let's get to it. So I think it's been kind of diving more into the marketing piece for my clients. It's been, I will say that 2020 is actually highest earning for my business than previous years. More than double already in 2020, which you probably wouldn't hear as often, especially in the photography industry. But it's boom.
Because you're controlling what you can control.
Yes, that control and being able to kind of take that work that I was already doing and advancing it. It was something that honestly helped with my mental health. It was just a time to just reevaluate my personal and my business life.
Sure.
And kind of those habits that I wanted to stay mentally. And so not just for now, but what's going to happen post-pandemic, if there's a such thing right now as post-pandemic. But
I hope there is, Keisha. I love it.
But I'll also say another thing is in taking care of me. And I want to say that to anyone that's watching. Get up and move, get out and move, walk in. We're very fortunate to have a trail in our backyard, a lot of greenery out here. Get out to move. And also that it is okay to cry. Cry in the shower, y'all, if you have to. Cry in the shower, yell in a pillow, because the moment that we're able to take what's happening and being able to process what's happening, which includes getting that off of you, the better that you're able to move forward in being successful. And I'm not talking about in business, but in general, in different elements of your life. And so it's been extremely important and staying connected with friends. Ty, as an extrovert, there's got to be a way to stay connected. So thank goodness for Zoom.
Yeah.
And
Google Hangouts.
Yes, and getting us together. Those are just some of the things that I've been doing, and obviously, time with my husband. But it's been significant during this time.
Thanks for sharing. Ty, anything else you want to add to that? And then if anyone has questions, as the panelists are answering, we'll take any questions in the chat from the audience. So
anything to add to that? Yeah, no, I think it's, for me, I always have a saying that I've been telling people for years. It's just, if you can't change the winds, change your sails, right? And I think that really goes into what Keisha's talking about, how, just see what you can control in that moment. And I think that really helps. And if you can't control the situation, see if you can work a way around it. If you can find a way to, and cope with it somehow. For me personally, my job is a very connected job. So what I've been doing is there's just times where I just disconnect. I'll put on a video game and I will do something kind of mindless for a little bit. I just block the world out. And that's been super helpful for me. I think what's kind of really cool, and I think this is obvious to everybody who's in this chat right now, is that from Businesssolver with all their employees down to us, with 10 employees and Keisha with herself, mental health is universal. Everybody's dealing with such a universal thing, and we're all trying to do our best, which is super awesome. I'm just sitting here nodding my head going wow, yeah, this is really cool. Make America, this is really cool. I'm super stoked to hear all of this.
Yeah, it is. It's a good point. I like to say we all have a mental health to tend to. It is one of those equalizers, right? So
yeah.
Ray,
Yeah,
what about you? Really impressed, as Suzanne said, with what Businesssolver has done. It's really cool to see. Oh, sorry, you're on mute. You're good.
Wanted to make sure there wasn't a dog bark in the background.
Yeah, right. We all got something in the background, probably.
Of course, echoing what other folks said, but I'll tell you one thing that's been just really something that I have not cooked consistently in probably 15 years. We eat out every night, and it's just, we thought before COVID, it was just easier to do that. And, you know, it's been really fun to get into cooking. I've made things that I would never have dreamt I've made. I've made homemade bolognese sauce. I've done, you know, all kinds of stuff that I would never have done. And it's forged a different relationship that, you know, it's a little odd. I'm married to the CEO. And so at work, he's my boss, and at home, and then we're working at home, and then we're, you know, having to have personal time. And, you know, it's helped us have a different kind of relationship by taking some time cooking together. He's made his own martini brine because it's, you know, olive juice is hard to get. And, you know, it's been fun. So it's using this downtime for something, you know, to do some different things. And I have one other fun story. One of our employees told us that what she's been doing with her daughter is she'll go buy 2 bouquets of flowers, and then she'll go randomly leave one on a neighbor's porch as just kind of some random, you know, ways to brighten people's days. And I think it's neat how new ways of connecting have come forward.
Yeah, random acts of kindness, right? We could all do with more of that. I love the cooking story. That's so interesting. Yeah. What's been your favorite thing you've made lately?
You know, I made what did I make the other day? Homemade chicken parmesan. So, homemade sauce, and I've never done anything like that. So it's just been fun.
Nice. Thanks. Annie, what about you?
So in February, I started a MBSR class, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction. I learned about it through the Des Moines Pastoral Counseling Center. Allison Pete, who works there, is a certified instructor in this mindfulness-based training. And then COVID happened. So we were meeting in person weekly, and our class ended in May. But it couldn't have happened at a better time for me. So I practice mindfulness every single morning, and that's been very helpful. And then I think it was in May at the bank, we started offering mindfulness practices daily, live mindfulness practice for our teammates every single day. And I was like, how is it? Like, I probably wouldn't even have noticed it because we have our intranet, as I'm sure many companies do, and there's lots of information out there and news, and we have our mental health resources pages and our COVID resources pages, and I just came across it somehow, and I was like, wait, there's somebody that's doing mindfulness at the bank. This is great. So now it's on my calendar, and it's happening every day. Cool. And then we also, we have several employee networks, employee resource groups, they're sometimes called. And one of them, the Women's Employee Network, does chair yoga daily. And so I have that on my calendar. So I have this mantra: if you move your body, you heal your mind. So Keisha, I am right there with you. You got to get out and move. And I can tell a marked difference. So I also struggle with depression. And if there have been a couple days where I haven't moved, or I hate to even just call it working out, but just moving my body, or if I haven't gone for a walk or I haven't done any physical activity, my husband's like, what you been doing? You need to get out for a walk. You need to do some yoga. You need to go do something. So move your body, heal your mind. I have to keep repeating that to myself.
Okay, so there's a couple questions that came in. I love this one from Jan. So were there any barriers that anyone saw in supervisors or coworkers when introducing Make It Okay or other mental health initiatives like a Businesssolver, Bank of America, or Brandt, or Drake? And if so, how were those resolved? So did you get pushback, barriers to entry? Ray, do you want to go first?
You know, I'm a big fan of Cy Wakeman, and one of her philosophies is work with the willing. And so many times in organizations, you listen to the verbal or voice of the people that voice the concerns, and sometimes we over rotate and spend too much time on that. So really, what we do is engaging the people that want to be engaged, and had so many people reach out and me being thankful and wanting to talk. So it's continuing to build on those.
Ty, were you going to say something, or Annie?
Yeah, for me, I mean, like I said, we build this into one of our core tenets. So anytime we're interviewing anybody, I bring it up immediately. I don't
That's
shy away
awesome.
from it. And that's something that, you have to be okay with. You have to want in your life, and if that doesn't appeal to you, then the company probably doesn't appeal to you. So no pushback for us, because I feel as though, it's not something new. It's something that we try to do every day. And I mean, if you don't love it, then you probably won't want to stay with us long.
Yeah, good point. You got to fit into the culture, right?
It's pretty common across colleges and universities to obviously have that level of support on campuses anyways. It's in the conversations that we're having with each other, conversations that we're having with the students, and making sure that they have the resources available to them, which we provide on campus. So I would hope no college or university would have an issue or have any pushback when it comes to this conversation.
Yeah. Annie, anything to add, or can I do the next question?
You can do the next question.
Okay, so do you guys have any advice to small business owners who might stand to lose everything during this time? Those who don't qualify for unemployment. What advice do you have? I mean, and Annie, you work with some small business owners, maybe not directly, but I know the bank does. Do you have any advice?
I would defer to Keisha and Ty on this one.
I think it sounds like trying to pivot is one, right? I mean, it's like adapting, but there's not a crystal ball for that exactly. And Ray, maybe you have insight too, but.
I think that's a really tough question for us to answer.
Yeah, that's what.
Because, like that, the biggest thing is that, the same things apply for when there's not COVID, is that you have to try your best and do what you can, right? And so, it's terrible because in this environment, you could have like the soundest business idea, but if it's directly affected by COVID, not much you can do, right? And that is something that if you try your best, then you have to understand that, or learn to cope with the idea that it might not work out, and come to terms with that, because fighting it, or I'm probably not wording it correctly, but it's something that I thought about quite a bit when this all first started. We immediately went to work remote. A lot of our clients had to close down. We were really unsure of what was going to happen over the next few months. And, things have stabilized for us a little bit, but there's no guarantee that it's going to be the same. And I really had to come to terms with the beginning that, like, you could do everything right and still lose. And that is not a failure on your part. That is human nature. That is just life. And like learning to be able to deal with that took a lot of stress off my shoulders.
Yeah, well said.
Emily, the only thing I'd add to that is, and I know we're closing, but it's okay to accept help. There are lots of organizations and resources out there that want to help and want to be part of helping the small businesses succeed. I know in our foundation, we're taking a focused effort on, are there ways that we can help, maybe not always with money, but with resources, ideas, and things like that to help other small businesses. So there's help there, and it's okay. Just like it's okay to take medicine for mental health, it's okay to accept help.
That's such a good point. Like, put it out there. There's no shame in saying, like, hey, my business is struggling. Could somebody give me some support in any way possible? And you're right, from whether it be financial or just resources or what. But that's huge. That's huge. You're absolutely right, Ray.
Can I just add something real quick as we're ending? Also, understanding that as entrepreneurs, we know going in, it's always a risk. At any point, in our careers as entrepreneurs, we know that everything that we're doing is a risk.
Yeah.
And one thing that I learned was from entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley. They laugh at people that show up. They laugh at entrepreneurs that show up and have never had a failed business. So that was something that has kind of stuck with me. If there's some element of your business where you haven't failed, they kind of see it as where did the true growth come from if you didn't fail at something in your business. So
good point. Well, in the interest of time, I want to keep going. And Abina asked a really good question, but I want to just wrap this. So there are just some additional resources here that we want to share. Websites to continue conversations, for more information, to seek resources, a referral for someone else in your life. Really great. There's plenty more just than this. Again, the portal that Businesssolver has, I wanted to share that. The link is in the chat, and we'll follow up and send it out. These are the next upcoming Make It Okay events. Next Thursday, the Thursday after that, and Thursday after that, same time, and Zoom. We have some really great continued conversations and discussion happening. And I want you guys to just consider this question, and then we'll wrap for the people who are still on the call if you need to jump off. Or do you have to all go? Do you have 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. So Abina, I really like this question. What effort is made to ensure that mental health initiatives are cultural specific and culturally sensitive? While you think about that for a sec, Abina, I will say I know Make It Okay specifically is asking themselves that question. So by having things in different languages, including different voices, Make It Okay had a video campaign where we're still working on ensuring that there's a variety of people at the table that from a gender perspective, from a culture perspective, from a race perspective. So definitely something that is, I think, important, especially in this day and age. But what about you guys? Are you seeing that cultural, do you tailor the message? How is that played out for you?
So I'll just chime in really quick, and this is at a very high level. And working for a large corporation, we have the benefit of having a very diverse workforce. We are global. And so as different initiatives have rolled out in the mental health space at Bank of America, we've engaged our employee networks. They're very strong and led by leaders at all different levels. So we have OLA, which is our Latinx employee network. We have our Black professionals group. We have Pride, which is our LGBTQ community. And all of those groups also have allies. We actually have 19 employee networks, but those are some of the bigger ones. And Nice. They are all engaged and at the table with our HR partners as we create these initiatives and roll them out to have that lens when we're rolling out these initiatives. So again, that's very corporate, very high level, but that's what
it's a start. It's nice that, that's how I know, like Principal has similar networks, right? So larger employers, that's an at least start to some of that work. Others? All right. You guys are awesome. Thanks for joining the series. Everyone is saying thank you all for your time and perspective, if you've read the chat or not, and thank you. But really fantastic job. Keep being awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks all for joining.
Everybody.
Take care.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.